welcome back to another one. Today we're putting together a 12 pellet 32 cal buckshot assembly here, you know what I mean, using the CTPS max wad, which is a wad that's intended for 3.5 inch, but we have tools that we can use to quickly trim this down and make it look like it was a 2 3/4 inch wad right out of the bag. Anyway, what the components we're using today are this, which is my favorite, as I like to say, and today's number of the day, 26, which is pretty much my go-to number for most things, lead shot anyway. But the dust is already in this brand new prime 2 3/4 inch Fiocchi. This one is trans blue. There. Well, it's trans blue. Anyway, really nice looking haul. I already showed you this, but the CTPS Max Wad, which if you don't know, they have a built-in cushion section down here, so no real need for any sort of filler. These are obviously for straight wall, although they will fit in some tapered hauls. With stuff like Blue Dot Steel, maybe Unique, they'll fit in Remington STS, Gun Club, things like that, but you got to trim it down by a lot, and you're not going to get a bunch of capacity out of it, 1 3/8, maybe 1.5 ounces. But anyway, we're not doing that today. We are putting together some buckshot. 32 cal, single lot buck. I like to mention this every time I use it or talk about it. Most double lot buck you get from factory shells is 32 cal, so you're not sacrificing anything here by using 32 cal. Anyway, we are using buffer, BSB buffer, which is my favorite buffer of all time. Really good stuff. Overshot card, about 10 thou. 12 pellets of 32 cal, again, single lot buck, is 1.345 ounces. With buffer, it's going to bring that up to 1 3/8. 26, which is today's number, is going to get that up to about 12-12.50. Anyway, how I trim this down is Gary Caskey's 12 gauge straight wall, internal of the wad, the inside of the wad straight wall, not straight wall haul, but 12 gauge wad trimmer. Now, I'll measure this after I trim it. I have it set to do the right depth. But just like that, that trims it off. Now, you may notice right here on this edge, it has a little bit of a lip to it, and that's because it was a really tall wad beforehand. Now, what I like to do is take a pair of pliers or anything really, and just give that, about 1/4 turn, and just hit it again, and that will trim that little lip right off. You might have seen it fall off. Now we have a perfectly even wad, and it is, I forgot, so let's measure it again, a 1.8195 roughly inch wad. Let's just call it 1.81 inches. But now we have Gary Caskey's 10 gauge 4-pedal adjustable wad slitter. How this works is just put it right in the shot cup, press down, and I have this set to do a 3/4 cut on that wad, obviously 4 pedals, and that's it. You can do that in like 10 seconds. I also forgot to mention that CTPS stands for cushioned TPS because it has a built-in cushion right here. So get that seated, and you'll notice this is exactly the right stack height for a fold crimp. People ask me all the time, what is the proper length from the top of the hull down to the top of the wad? It varies. It depends on what you're putting together, even down to what shot material you're using. Lead will compress more than TSS, and steel depends on what dust you're using, how deep you want your final crimp depth to be, the rim around the center of the hull, for lack of a better term. It just varies. There is no set amount, but 3/8 of an inch is usually about right. But mostly it just depends on how much the components are going to compress when you go to final crimp it, if that makes sense. There really truly is no set amount. So anyway, 12 pellets of the 32 cal here comes up, it's a little bit below the top of the wad, which is fine. But I guess trim it to like 1.8, 1.79. I was a little bit off of my trim, but it's fine. So 2 scoops of a Lee 2.2 cc nipper worth of BSB buffer is what I'm using here. Again, this is going to bring it right up to a perfect ounce and 3/8. There's 2 scoops. And I spilled a little bit. Oops. There it is. Vibrating massager. And that has it perfect. The top 2 pellets are barely peeking through. There. Didn't want to spill it. 10 thou overshot card, of which I have lost. There it is. Set that right on top. And this one's ready for a fold crimp. Pre-crimp looks awesome. Overshot card's not in there flat, but it will be once you final crimp it. Robasator. Oh yeah. That one came out really nice. Oh, no. It didn't. It kind of cut that crimp pedal right there. I guess it didn't have quite enough pre-crimp on that. Right, anyway, final crimp it. This is my 10 gauge Lelo doll. As I like to always say, converted from a 12, it'll still do 12 gauge just fine. What I like to do is final crimp it, lift up, spin the hull a little bit, crimp it again. Do that a few times. It just gets a more even crimp overall. You don't have to do it, but it's just something I like to do. And we end up with a really, really nice looking pre-crimp, or final crimp rather, but there is no taper on the hull. It's square on top, so hit this with the BN2. And guys, this should be a really nice looking shell. I wish I had some powder coated 32 cal, maybe red. That would have looked super nice, but oh well. Alright, hit it with the BN2. As you can see, really nice tapered edge on there. Crimp looks excellent. I call that a winner. And yes, these do pattern really good. We have fired these multiple times on camera, off camera. This is a really, really nice patterning shell. If you've never used the CTPS 47, the CTPS Max Wad, I highly recommend it. It's great in 3.5 inch, especially if you use dusts, you know what I mean, that are similar to this one or this one. You know, the flake powders that have low density take up a lot of room. The CTPS Max Wad is a little bit shorter than like a 3.5 inch TPS Wad. Those, if you want to run dusts like those, you got to trim a little bit or use a 3-inch TPS wad. CTPS Max is perfect with those dusts. Again, you know what I mean, hopefully. But if you run something like this one in 3.5 inch with the CTPS Max wad, you'll need to use an overshot card that's quite a bit thicker than that one I used, the 10 thou. You need probably half of a 70 thou Maxi Nitro card, 35 thou. But nonetheless, CTPS Max Wad is awesome. You don't need to add any cushion to it unless you want to do something a little bit lighter. It'll hold 16 pellets of 32 cal or 33 cal. It'll hold 18 pellets of 31 cal, 21 pellets of 30 cal. Go on and on and on. But anyways, it's one of my favorite wads. Holds a pretty good pattern. It's I can't recommend them enough. If I forgot to mention, which I know I did in a recent video, facebook.com/gary.d.caskey. And speaking of Gary, the CTPS Max Wad is one of his favorite wads. Uses them quite a bit. I believe they were just called originally the CTPS Wad because at the time when they came out, there was no other CTPS wads. Now they have the CTPS 46, 47. They have a CTPS wad available in 16 gauge and 20 gauge. They are pretty good wads. The only complaint I have about them across the whole line is the 16 gauge one. It could have a little bit lower of a cushion section and a little bit taller of a shot cup, but that's nitpicking. I think they're really intended more for like TSS and steel, not really so much lead, but you know. One last thing about the CTPS Max Wad before I sign this off is you can actually fit up to a 34 cal pellet in it, stacked by twos, which is Wade calls it double aught plus. I call it double aught plus. It's again 34 cal. It's bigger than standard double aught 33 cal, but yeah, you can fit 2 of those stacked by twos, more than 2 obviously. This is a train wreck. you can stack 34 cal by twos in the CTPS Max Watt is what I was trying to say. But anyways, guys, I guess that's going to end this one here. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram, Rumble, and merch store, will be down in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy. We'll see you in the next one.